the key, it's free, it's for you and me, you and me. So let's discover love's great wonder. Let's discover the spell we are under. Love! Love! Hello. Welcome to the Love Show, where we grapple with the question, what is love? I'm your host, Merlin Mililli. Today's show asks, is applause love? Yay! Applause. You know, clapping, hooting, hollering. Is that love? Let's find out. I only used one article, and it was from an interesting point of view. It was written with the performer as the audience. I found this to be a strange new ground. Usually the performer, is obviously not the audience, but the performer. Excuse me. It's my allergy season. So I found a manifesto, actually, at paratheatrical.com entitled The Performer Audience Romance. They say no matter how great a given performance, an audience can only love the performance and not the person performing it. They go on to say everyone needs and deserves love, but that's not what the audience offers or can offer. Confusing audience applause for love is like feasting on popcorn. You bloat and stay hungry for more popcorn. And those who fall for audience love are shadowed by dark nights between productions. They go on to get, not surprisingly, more dramatic about it. It is a drama thing, paratheatrical.com. So, expected to get dramatic, but is that just being dramatic, or is that true? Those who fall for audience love are shadowed by dark nights between productions. I think the other extraneous drama may have been overly dramatic, but I think that this statement here is probably true. I did a show in season 1 of the Love Show called Ball and Chain. Excuse me. And on the show that day, we looked into the song Ball and Chain. That was written by Big Mama Thornton and made popular by Janis Joplin at the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967. Oh my goodness, excuse me. On the show, we found that love was not a ball and chain, but that it seemed that Big Mama and Janis had both tethered themselves to the music industry. Perhaps you could even say they married the music industry and expected it to love and protect them in return. And then, when it didn't, they were crushed. Perhaps the music industry, the audience, and the applause are the same in that the music industry is not one single person, but a conglomerate of people. The audience is normally made up of several people, and applause comes from more than one person. I suppose it is still applause when only one person is applauding. But for the performer, it doesn't really seem like love. Have you ever had just one person and a whole crowd of people applaud you? Have you ever witnessed this or been the only clapper in a crowd? From whatever point of view, it's awkward. It's just awkward. Applause is not really the same from just one person. It's awkward. Almost Twilight Zone awkward. Nonetheless, I think, like the audience, like the music industry, applause should not be assumed to be love. At least, it should not be depended on as love. If one tethers themselves to any of those things, the music industry, the audience, or the applause, one is just setting themselves up for destruction. Because a group cannot reciprocate that love. They can say, I love you till the cows come home. But is it really love? It's like Facebook love. It says love, but it might not really be love. Can you love potato chips? Or are we just misspeaking when we say things like that? Can you love a musician? You can, but can you love one you've never met? Is that love? I suppose that it can be, but most of it is like loving potato chips. However, when you have met the person, like if my husband and children who love me were to come to a performance where I was on the stage and they were in the crowd, and they clapped, even if they didn't like the music, but they clapped because they loved me, then that is love. That applause is love. I think I may be being applauded by a fly. I'm not sure. I don't know what fly applause actually sounds like. But pretty much all the other applause is superficial. And applause really does seem to depend on what the person next to you in the audience is doing. Have you seen standing ovations? They start with one person usually, someone's mom or husband, someone who really does love the performer and has met them. But then just catches on. Like the wave. One person gets up, they all get up. But if the person next to you isn't standing, do you stand? If the person next to you isn't clapping, do you clap? Have you ever been the first person to stand for a standing ovation? I haven't. Every single Dead show I went to ended up in a standing ovation. Of course, most of us were standing and dancing anyway, but when I really felt the love was this one night at Madison Square Garden. In the 1990s, the encore after the standing ovation was Not Fade Away. And as we all herded out of the Coliseum, we were all clapping in unison. No, our love will not fade away. No, our love will not fade away. And it just kept going. And we kept doing it out onto the street. And I heard people doing it in the train station. It was awesome. And I honestly can't call that anything else but love and applause. Applause extraordinaire. So I guess what I have discovered here is that applause can be love. And sometimes it is even real and true, but to depend on it, to depend on that love as a performer is downright dangerous. Then it becomes a ball and chain. It's dangerous because a performer can tether themselves to it and depend on it. And when it happens, it's great, it's magical, it's wonderful. But when one person claps, or God forbid, no one even shows up, it does not mean that the performer is unloved. If the performer puts on a bad performance and people boo, the performer is not unloved. They just had a bad night. Everyone has bad nights. Every city has a bad crowd. These things have nothing to do with love or the performer's value as a person. The Para Theater Manifesto also says, attempting to meet our need for personal love may be the worst reason to become an actor or a performer in any audience-defined medium. Find someone to love and to love you, and then decide why you want to perform. If you can't find someone to love, love yourself like there's no tomorrow. Or if you are so graced, turn to God For the unconditional love no human can be expected to provide, and then share the spiritual presence with the world. Become the love that you seek. Love is never what we think. Love is the law and the crime that created and broke the law. I'm going to repeat that. Love is the law and the crime that created and broke the law. That phrase made me think of the Grateful Dead song, Victim or the Crime, written by Jarrett Graham and Bob Weir. Online it said Robert Hall Weir. Bob Weir. So Bob normally sings it, and he sings, "And so I wrestle with the angel to see who'll reap the seeds I sow. Am I the driver or the driven? Will I be damned to be forgiven? Is there anybody here but me who needs to know what it is that feeds this fever as the full moon pales and climbs? Am I living truth or rank deceiver? Am I the victim or the crime?" Interesting, the performer is the only one who needs to know. And he addresses that. So he sings, "So I wrestle with the angel to see who'll reap the seeds I sow." And I think that's it right there. It all depends on what seeds you sow. If you run around sowing hatred as a performer, you get hatred back. If you run around sowing love, you'll get love back. Now, I know Hitler and folks like him counted on the opposite. They felt that if you hated the audience or the crowd, that they would love you. Which can also be true, but that's reverse psychology. And reverse psychology is temporary. The whole tactic, it's a temporary thing. Because it doesn't last, because it's not real. None of it. The hate isn't even real. The love certainly isn't real. The person may feel it is, but they've been manipulated. Can love be manipulated? Yet another love show. The point is that reverse psychology, the whole technique, it's fake. It's a lie. So, is love truth? Another love show, perhaps. I feel that love must be truth, because that is why if one sows seeds of love, and that comes out perceivable to the audience, then the love seems capable of reciprocating. Does that make sense? Even in a crowd, even with multiple persons involved on both sides, stage and audience. If it's real, if it's true, that it could be reciprocated as actual love. If it's given as actual love. I did prove in our self-love episode in season 1 that one really must love oneself before one can love another. And I think that's important here too, to first love oneself. You must love yourself. Then you must love your craft. Then you must love your audience. Then, maybe then, if you perform with love, you'll get applause that is love. But on the whole, I think we have found that applause that is love is probably as rare as real love itself. Let's work to make it not so rare. Let's work to make it regular. Can you work with me to make love a regular thing so it's not such a rare thing? Real, true love? Really loving? We have already established that love is not sex in numerous other episodes, so I'm not talking about sex. We have enough of that, no shortage of sex. Love. We really do have a shortage of love. So let us all work to make love a regular thing. Not something weird, to be feared, but just regular. Everyday love. Maybe then, if we changed the world with love, then more applause would be love. But alas, till then, don't depend on it, performers. But then when it does come, if you don't depend on it, it's a pleasant surprise. Especially when it's magical like that night at Madison Square Garden. Oh. May you all get the love you need and the applause that you need every day or night that you need it. I love you. Thanks for watching. Love.